Hello everyone, my name is Vladimir Petrosian and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager. And today I'll give you a quick overview of Microsoft Intune's capabilities to manage your mobile devices, PCs, and Macs in your organization so you can enable device choice for your employees and help to protect your company data in your environment. I have a lot of demos in this presentation, so I'll try to keep you entertained throughout this presentation. First, just to get started, I'll give you a quick overview of where the industry is at right now and help you understand how we can help you solve some of the challenges that we see when we talk to our customers. You might be well aware of the fact that the world has changed over the last 10-15 years. The revolution of mobile devices, the explosion of cloud services and applications have changed the world. You now see that employees expect to be able to work easily from the devices of their choice. So it's not just about being able to use Windows laptops, for example. A lot of employees would like to use their mobile devices as well as Macs to get the work done. They also would like to have an easy access to mobile applications. In this case, it means that they don't want to call help desk or go through VPN configurations just to be able to access their email or files or applications, for example. And a lot of employees nowadays want to have self-service. Again, they want to be able to reset their own password. They want to be able to access applications on their own without having to call help desk, without having to call the IT or create tickets, for example. On the other end, IT also has new challenges, right? IT also needs to be able to secure access to company resources so the IT knows who and under what conditions is accessing applications. In the past, it was relatively easy because most of the company data was stored on premises, but now company data, in this case, email applications and files, are not just stored on premises, they're also stored in the cloud. So how do you manage access in this new world? Another challenge for IT is being able to protect company data on these new endpoints, right? And as I mentioned before, it's not just Windows, it's also iOS, Mac, and Android devices. And with all these new challenges, IT is basically asked to do more with the same or limited resources. So basically, how do you solve all these challenges with having the same resources, the same funds in your organization? We believe we have a solution that we can help you with Enterprise Mobility Plus Security. In this case, we enable productivity for your employees by enabling device choice. So again, your employees can use devices of their choice. They can get easy access to resources on premises and the cloud. They get self-service capabilities, and they also can use their favorite applications, Office applications, across all the operating systems. And I'll show you some of the demos in a few minutes. The second item is data protection, very important for many of our customers. And in this case, we focus on two things: helping you to manage access to your resources and also enabling data protection at the endpoint once the access is granted. Again, we have some few technologies in that space with Intune and Enterprise Mobility Plus Security that I will show you in a few minutes. And last but not least, we also believe the simplifying management for you is extremely important. And we have a unified platform and unified admin experience all available from the cloud to help you with that across all of your devices, as well as deployment and support available for you as part of the subscription. So that way you actually can get started with deploying our services, again, without having to rely too much on documentation or traditional methods of deployment in this case. So I split this presentation in 3 separate chapters. The first one is about enabling productivity for your employees. The second one is about data protection. And the third one is about simplifying the management. The first part, which I'll focus on in a second, it's about end-user productivity. And the important piece of that is the fact that employees, as I mentioned, have different devices that they would like to use to get the work done. And there are also different use cases. It's not just about you being able to distribute devices to your users. It's also users being able to bring their own devices and access work applications and work files on their own devices, as well as use cases where there's a kiosk device or you have contractors. So you have all these different scenarios and use cases in your organization that you have to manage. And what we offer to you is that one platform, one cloud solution can help you enable all of these use cases across different device types and device operating systems. As I mentioned before, Windows 10, iOS, macOS, and Android. So all these use cases can be managed through Microsoft Intune, and I'll show you how all that can be done using one admin console and one management platform from the cloud. The second item, which is very important for end-user productivity, is simplified access to applications. And what we mean by that is by making it easier for employees to access applications both in the cloud and on premises using their favorite device. One of the ways we enable that is we enable single sign-on to thousands of SaaS or software as a service cloud applications, as well as your on-premises applications without using on-premises appliances or infrastructure or VPN service. So we can enable single sign-on to popular SaaS applications like Office 365, Salesforce, Dropbox, for example, as well as your on-premises web applications, again, without having to build on-premises infrastructure. And I'll show you that in a moment as well. And the last but not least in this section is enabling self-service capabilities for your employees. As I mentioned, it's a very important topic for a lot of our customers, and it's a huge space to actually cut your expenses from the IT point of view. Because, again, you can enable employees to do things on their own, right? They don't have to call you to change their password. They don't have to call help desk to reset their multi-factor authentication method, for example. They don't have to ask their manager to get access to more applications or manage their own groups. So we enable all that through our solution, again, across iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac as well. So brings a lot of power to the end user, so they're more happy with the work they're doing, and they also don't have to bother the IT, and that way the IT can actually focus on more strategic tasks versus the help desk activities. So let me show you quickly how this actually it works. I will first switch to my iPad and show you end user experiences on a managed device. So I, as an employee, can use my personal iPad in this case to get access to applications and get some work done. So this is my personal iPad. I will first launch what we call Managed Browser. So it's an application that allows me to access my access my application securely. The first thing you see here is that I'm asked to enter my PIN, is because this is the data protection policy we set in Intune that says if I'm trying to access company resources, I have to enter a PIN in this specific application. And it can be a PIN, it can be a password, or it can be a biometric like Touch ID if I choose to enable that for my employees. In this case, I set a very simple PIN, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that. And next thing I'm going to do is I will try to access all of my applications that were enabled for me by IT. In a second, you will see that I have lots of applications here that I have access to. And first one I will try to do is a very common one, is I will try to access my mail. And what you will see in a second, I'm able to access my mail without having to enter my password. This is a technology called single sign-on enabled by Azure AD that allows me as an employee get easy access to my applications. I'll show you a bit different example with a non-Microsoft SaaS application. In this case, it will be Salesforce, which is also a popular application for our customers. So I will click on Salesforce. And again, what you will see in a second, that because this is a sensitive application, I'm required to prove that I am the right person. This is a policy I set in my organization saying that if I'm trying to access Salesforce, I have to prove I am the right person. In this case, I'm getting a call on my mobile phone, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it and prove that, yes, I am who I am, in this case, chris@contosobuild.com, and I am trying to access this application. And as you'll see in a second, the access to this app will be granted. And again, this is because I verified that I am actually Chris in this case. And what you'll see, again, I'm able to access Salesforce, again, without having to enter my password, so it makes my life much easier. Let me show you one more example. In this case, it's a little bit different because I'm actually trying to access an on-premises web application without having to use VPN. So in this case, it's called Contoso Retail Services. And what you will see in a second, again, is that I'm able to get single sign-on as an end user to my on-premises web app. And in this case, it's enabled by technology called Azure AD Application Proxy, which again enables single sign-on to on-prem web apps without on-premises appliance or on-premises VPN infrastructure. So pretty powerful, again, another way for you to save some cost in your environment. Another thing I can do as an employee is the self-service part, which I mentioned earlier. For example, I can add more applications if I want to. So for example, if I need to get access to more apps that I need to get my work done, I can do it here as well, again, without having to call IT. I can also join more groups or manage groups on my own. So in this case, if I, for example, am working on a new project and I would like to join a new group so I can get access to more application, I can do it here again without having to call IT. As I mentioned earlier, I can also reset my password here on my own. I can also reset or change my multi-factor authentication method. So for example, if my MFA is currently set to a mobile phone call, I can change it to a text, or I can change it to a mobile app, which is called Authenticator. So I can verify that, yes, I am the right person using a mobile application in this case. So all these self-service capabilities are possible for me to do. One thing I would like to also cover before I switch to IT Pro experiences is the fact that in this case, because this device was enrolled into management into Intune to get access to my email application, Intune automatically installed all the needed mobile applications on my iPad in this case. So as you can see, I have many Microsoft and non-Microsoft applications or mobile apps in this case installed on my device automatically by Intune as soon as I enroll my device for management. And as an employee, I also get access to more mobile applications if I need to. So Intune Company Portal, again, enables the additional self-service capabilities for me to access more mobile applications, for example, in my environment, see what devices that I have. So all these devices belong to me. And as an end user, I can manage it from this application myself. So for example, if I lose a device, I can actually wipe this device myself using Intune Company Portal. Again, very powerful to ensure that the company data stays protected. I can get support information in this case and get notifications that are important to me as an end user. So again, all this awesomeness is available for our end users to get the self-service capabilities. Let me now switch to my Surface device here and show you some of the IT Pro capabilities. In this case, how I configured all this stuff for my employees. So what you see now is the EMS or Intune administrative dashboard. So here I have access to 3 major Azure services to manage my identities, devices, and data protection. So one of these services is Microsoft Intune. Again, this is the topic of this presentation specifically. And Microsoft Intune enables me to, again, manage all devices in my environment. So as I mentioned, you can manage your iOS, Android, Mac OS, and Windows devices. So for example, here, I can create policies for all of those operating systems. So I'll show you one example, just so you can see all the different policies available to you as an IT professional. So I'll create a new profile. I'll choose a platform. So as you can see, all the major ones are available. I will choose one of them, which is iOS. And what you will see here in a second is that there are different profile types available. I can deploy a Wi-Fi profile, VPN, certificate, email. I can also have device restrictions. So if I'm looking to secure the device, as you can see here, I have many policies, in this case, categories of policies that I can configure. And then I can click on one of the categories and see all these settings that are available to me to configure. So this is where I can make sure the devices are secured when they access to our company resources. I can also deploy applications, mobile apps in this case. So I can deploy applications from Apple App Store, Google Play, Windows Store. I can also deploy Mac applications to my Mac device as well. So again, all these things that make my employees get ready for work faster. So I'll show you an example of apps you can deploy. You'll see here that, as I mentioned, all different applications are available for you to deploy. You can deploy your line of business, so your own applications as well. And what we recently added, you can also deploy Office 365 applications directly from the cloud. For example, for the Windows 10 platform, again, you can use Intune to automatically deploy applications to your end users from the cloud. So again, it reduces the infrastructure need in your environment and makes it easy for employees to get access to important applications from the get-go. So that was that. An interesting part that I would like to also cover for you is the fact that this is a unified admin console. So you have HTML5-based modern admin console, can be accessed from any browser from anywhere because our cloud services are running in Azure, so they're globally available. And you can not only manage your devices here, you can also manage your identities and groups and SaaS applications using the same admin console. So as an IT professional, it's easier for me to get all these things done, again, using one platform and one admin experience. The important piece about data protection for us is that we focus on 2 specific areas that are important to our customers. So one is about managing access to your resources. So who, under what conditions, can access your resources. And the second one is, once the access is granted, how can you ensure that data is protected on those endpoints? So again, mobile devices, PCs, or Macs, for example. So let me go deeper into each of those areas that, again, are very important for many customers from compliance and security point of view. So the first one is access control, what we call in EMS conditional access. And the idea here is that you can define a set of conditions that the employees have to meet in order to get access to your company resources, in this case, files, email applications that are stored in the cloud and on premises. And those conditions can be from what locations the employee is coming. Is device managed or compliant? Is the user authenticated? What's the user's risk? Is user potentially compromised or not? So all those conditions can be checked automatically in the cloud. And based on the conditions, then you can define different controls. Do you want to block access to your resources? Do you want to enable multi-factor authentication? Do you want to require the device to be enrolled for management into Intune? Or you can also provide, for example, limited access. So all these things are available to you to configure and control from the cloud, so you don't have to maintain on-premises infrastructure. I would like to mention again that our conditional access policies work for both SaaS applications, so your cloud apps, as well as your on-premises web applications as well, which is very important for you because many of our customers, again, have applications that are both on-premises and in the cloud. And the second area is protecting company data at the endpoint. So once the employees or contractors are able to access company resources, like email or files, for example, what can we do to help you ensure that the company data stays protected? And this is where Intune's app protection policies come into play. And they basically help you protect your company resources at the application layer. So you can define things like, is data encrypted at the endpoint or on a mobile device or Windows device, for example? Do they have to enter a PIN to access applications? Can they copy company information and move it to the personal storage locations or applications, for example? Can you wipe company data and so on? So all these things are also provided by Intune to help you feel comfortable with the fact that your company data is protected, even though it might be on different devices, outside of your company network. So again, very powerful, very important from compliance and security point of view. And with that said, let me show you quickly how that actually looks. So I will first start with an iPad, again, to show you the conditional access controls that are available to you. So what you will see here, this is my unmanaged iPad. So if I go to settings, you will see that this device is not managed. So it's a personal device that I can use to watch movies, for example. But now I, as an employee, would like to access company email. So let me try that. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Outlook, which is a mobile app that I downloaded from the Apple App Store. And as you can see here, I have my personal email added here, so at outlook.com. And I'm going to try to add my company email now. So let me try that, which is in this case, chris@contosobuild.com, which is an email in Office 365. I'll click Add Account, and I will enter my password. And one cool thing you saw here is that when I put my username, the background and the company logo changed, which helps me as an employee to know that I'm at the right place, that this is not a phishing attack, for example. So again, a little thing that helps you with security. So I'll put my password, click Go. And what you'll see in a second, it says, hey, we know that you're the right person, and you should be able to access this information, in this case, email. But the company policy says that your device has to be enrolled and compliant before you can access company resources. So it gives me a button, in this case, Enroll Now, which lets the end user download into a company portal and go to the standard iOS enrollment process. So again, the idea here is that the policy I set requires device management and device compliance before I can access company email. So this is Outlook, Outlook app. Let me try something different. Let me try to add email now from my iOS native email client. So again, another way I can technically access Office 365 email. So I'll click Add Account, choose Exchange, put the same email, so chris@contosobuild.com. I think I spelled it right. So click Next, sign in. And you will see that iOS added support for the modern auth now too, so modern authentication. So again, you see the same background, the same company logo. password is already there, so I'll sign in. And you will see the same message. Again, I have to get my device enrolled before I can access my email, even from the iOS native email client. And this experience is similar on Windows device, Mac device, or Android device. So again, it's cross-platform, not just iOS. Another way that I can technically access email as an employee is through browser. So let me go ahead and launch Safari in this case. And I will try to access my Exchange Online email from my browser. So let me try that. So I'll search it and then try to log in. Okay. I'll choose Chris, again, the same account. I will put my password again. And what you'll see again, the same message that I have to get my device enrolled before I can access company resources. Again, this is a functionality provided by a feature in EMS called conditional access that helps you ensure that only the right people on the right condition can access your on-premises and cloud applications, again, without having you to maintain an on-premises infrastructure or VPN service. So this is conditional access. Let me show you how you can protect company data on iPad in this case once the access is granted. So I am back to my managed iPad, and in this case, this iPad has Intune app protection policies that help to protect company data at the application layer. And the demos I'm showing you here are on managed device, but the same functionality is also available on unmanaged devices, which again can enable more scenarios for you for BYOD use cases, for example. And again, I'm showing you this demo on iOS device, but it will work. The same functionality is available on Android and Windows 10 devices. So a very basic example here, I will launch my Outlook email. Again, which I use in this case as an employee to access my personal and company email. As you can see here, because this is a company email, I have a policy. It's a company application. I have a policy that says I have to enter my PIN. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my simple PIN again. And again, you can also enable biometrics, so Touch ID, to make it even easier for employees to access applications. So as you can see here, I have both my company email and my personal Outlook email available here. So again, I can use both accounts, and our data protection policies are working well within the application because they have the idea of multi-identity. So they know when the company data when the data is actually company data and when it's personal. So the protection itself only follows the company data. So let me show you a very common example. So I will open one of the emails here, which is a company email. So this is my Office 365 email. And I'll try to copy some text here, which is a company information text. I will now open my Notes app and try to paste this information here. So you will see here, I'll try to paste something here. And what you will see here that I'm getting a message back saying, hey, your organization's data cannot be pasted here. Again, because the policy we set in Intune says you cannot move company data from a company account or application to a personal account or application. So that's why employee are guided saying, hey, you shouldn't do this because this is against the policy in your organization. But let me now try to open Word, which is also, in this case, managed by Intune. So it's a company-protected application. And I will try to do the same action. I'll try to paste company information, in this case, into a Word file. So I will open one of the files that is stored in OneDrive for Business. And it will download and open this file within my Word application. Now I will try to paste the same content here. And what you will see is that now I'm able to do it because the policy I set in Intune says you're able to move company data between managed applications. In this case, both Outlook and Word are managed, so this operation is allowed. Another common use case is being able to save data into storage locations, things like OneDrive or Dropbox, for example, so I can continue working on my projects. So I will try to save a copy. And let's say I'll try to save it into OneDrive Personal. So it's my personal OneDrive account. And what you'll see in a second is that this action is not allowed, again, because of the policy we set in Intune. But if I try to save this file into OneDrive for Business, which is a company-approved storage location, I will be able to save it, again, because the policy in Intune allows me to do it. So again, This really helps me as an employee to do the right things, to make sure that the company data stays protected, even if I'm using my own personal iPad to get the work done. So employees get the productivity boost, and from the IT perspective, we get the peace of mind that our data doesn't go into the places that we don't have control anymore. So let me show you now how this can be configured from the IT pro point of view. So I will switch back to my Surface here and go to the admin console. I'll go back to this dashboard, and I'll first show you conditional access capabilities, so how you can manage access to your resources. So I will click on the Azure AD blade here and click on conditional access. We have few policies already defined in my environment, but I'll create a new one to show you how easy it is to configure conditional access policy. The first thing you need to decide is which users or user groups you'd like to protect. And these are the same groups and users that are available in Office 365 because the backend of Office 365 is Azure AD. It's the same users, same user groups that you can reuse, in this case for Intune, Azure AD, and EMS, because again, the backend is the same. So I can choose all users, or I can choose specific groups if I want to, and you can also exclude groups if needed as well. So for example, if you would like to exclude your a CEO, for example, or your IT management, you can do it from here. That way they will not be affected by this conditional access policy. So I'll click Done. The next thing is you need to choose which applications you would like to protect. And again, as I mentioned before, you can protect both cloud applications, so almost 3,000 SaaS applications that Azure AD already federates with. You can enable or select applications from your on-premises applications, and you can basically enable any other cloud application as well through different methods that Azure AD enables. So in this case, for a very simple example, I will choose Exchange Online, which is a very common application that many customers would like to protect. I click Select. I will click Done. And the next one is very important, is the conditions. So this is where you define different conditions that the employees or users have to meet before they can access applications, in this case, Office 365. So one of them is sign-in risk. So how risky is the user or the sign-in activity? And this is where Azure AD Identity Protection uses machine learning and vast data pool that Microsoft has access to basically analyze user behavior and the sign-in behavior of the user to see and basically calculate the risk of the user. And based on that risk, we can automatically block access or enforce multi-factor authentication as employees try to access your company resources. And again, we calculate the risk based on user behavior, sometimes location change, the hours of work change. Basically, we analyze different patterns to figure out if whatever the user is doing is abnormal. Again, that's based on the machine learning algorithms that we have at Microsoft. The other thing is device compliance. So do you want your devices to be managed and compliant before they can access company resources? And again, most customers choose this as well. They want the devices that access company resources, be secure, be managed, and be compliant. Next condition you can select is locations. So you can define trusted locations. So if the user, for example, is coming from United States, then you can say that is trusted, so I don't really need to enforce anything from conditional access point of view. But if the user, for example, is coming from North Korea, I would like to enforce multi-factor authentication. So again, that's under your control as well. And you can also select specific applications that you would like employees to use. So for example, if you would like employees to only use managed applications, so the ones that are protected by Intune and no other applications, you have that control in your hands as well. So that's available to you as well. And based on these conditions, then you can define controls, right? Do you want to just block access? Or do you want to enable access but require multi-factor authentication, require, as I mentioned, device to be compliant with Intune policies, require, for example, Windows devices to be joined to the on-premises Active Directory and Azure AD? Do you want to only allow specific applications to be able to access cloud services? Or do you want to require terms of use that needs to be signed by the end user? So there are different controls available to you that you can enforce on the users that try to access company resources on premises and in the cloud. So again, this is the functionality that we call conditional access. Very powerful. Lots of customers use it already across Intune and Azure AD that work together to make this happen purely from the cloud without having to maintain any on-premises infrastructure. So this is conditional access. Let me show you Intune App Protection. This is where you can define data protection controls at the application layer. So I will go to the Intune blade here, go into the mobile app section, then select App Protection Policies. And this is where you can, again, define those copy-paste, save-as, encryption controls. So I'll create a new one just to show you how it works. As I mentioned before, you can do this across iOS, Android, and Windows 10. You can select which applications you would like to protect. As you can see here, we have many Microsoft and non-Microsoft applications available for you too. And beyond these applications, you can also enable this for your own line of business applications as well through Intune App SDK or through the Intune App Wrapping tool. So this is also available to your own line of business applications. And after choosing applications, you can also choose all these data protection controls. Again, as I mentioned, things like, do you want to enforce copy-paste, save-as, encryption, per app access control, what's the minimum version of the operating system employees have to use applications, what's the minimum version of the applications they have to use. So they have many different controls at the application level that you can define to ensure that your company data, in this case, again, email or files, are protected on endpoints, again, that are iOS, Android, and Windows 10. And again, as I mentioned before, but I would like to restate again, this technology, in this case, Intune App Protection, works for both managed and unmanaged applications. So even if you have a unmanaged Android device, you can enable this app-level controls without having to require your employees to enroll their devices for management. So it's a really nice enabler for many use cases for some of our customers, especially around bring your own device scenarios, or scenarios where you have contractors or vendors that try to access your company information, but they're not your employees, so you cannot really manage their devices. The thing about management is that when we talk to our customers, there are different challenges they really have to solve. Many of our customers have currently a separate Windows management solution. So they have an on-premises solution to manage Windows devices. Most often is SCCM, but now they're also asked to have a separate solution to manage their mobile devices. On top of, again, not just having two solutions to maintain, most of these solutions are on premises. So again, that means that you have to have resources and the knowledge to maintain the infrastructure. And as I mentioned before, they're also asked, our IT professionals are asked to do more now with either same or less resources. Again, it's becoming harder and harder for them to be able to achieve their goals. What we believe is that from our perspective, we do enable solutions to all of these challenges because Intune and Enterprise Mobility Plus Security, or shortly EMS, provides a unified endpoint management platform. So you have one cloud platform to not only manage your mobile devices, but also Windows 10 devices and Mac as well. So you have one cloud platform that you can use to manage all of your devices, again, without having to maintain on-premises infrastructure. You have one unified admin console. As I showed you before, you have admin console in the Azure portal that helps you to manage your iOS, Windows, Android, Mac devices, as well as identities, SaaS applications, access controls. Again, one admin console is great. We also enabled Intune in Microsoft Graph. So we enable Intune APIs in Microsoft Graph. So now you can programmatically access Intune controls and Intune's data without having to use admin console. And that's very powerful because that enables automation, integration, and advanced reporting scenarios for you and your IT members or colleagues as well. So very powerful. And again, as I mentioned before, because we're a cloud service, we can scale to any number of devices and users you need to manage. We're available globally. And we also include deployment and support services in the subscription, so you don't have to pay additional money to get started or get help to get help with your deployment, or get assistance if things don't work well, for example. Let me go a bit deeper in each of these areas. I will first start with Windows management. And there is a lot of interest from many of our customers to modernize Windows management because it does bring many benefits to them. Some of them include better end-user experiences. Again, because end users can use their own Windows 10 devices, they can get self-service capabilities, they can use their latest up-to-date Office ProPlus applications, for example. So that's a benefit to the end user. We also believe this ability to manage Windows 10 devices from the cloud enables simpler management. So that way, again, you don't have to maintain on-premises infrastructure. You can just manage your Windows devices just the same way you manage your mobile devices from the cloud using the MDM APIs that are available in Windows 10. So it makes your life a bit easier from the IT pro perspective. We also believe that this new cloud-based modern management approach of Windows 10 devices provides a more secure experience because you can leverage all that awesome security technology enabled with each release of Windows 10, things like Windows Defender ATP, Exploit Guard, Credentials Guard, Device Guard, Application Controls, and there are many more security features that are being released in each release of Windows that you can now manage from the cloud. The other benefit of that from security perspective is that when you manage devices from the cloud, you can really use that cloud telemetry and machine intelligence to help discover attacks against your environment. One cool example is Defender ATP that basically analyzes your devices, your Windows devices, using machine learning algorithms to figure out if you have a sophisticated attack against your organization. So all of these use cases will be even more powerful as we get more telemetry in the cloud to help you fight against the bad guys. And the last but not least, we also believe that this modern management approach of Windows devices provides a lower total cost of ownership for you and your organization. In this case, again, because you don't have to maintain on-premises infrastructure, you will have less expenses that you have to manage, which means you'll have more resources to focus on more strategic projects for your company and become a strategic partner versus a cost center. We envision modern Windows management in a way that you'll be able to use our cloud services, in this case Azure AD and Intune, to deploy, provision, manage, secure, and keep up to date all of your Windows devices on top of the mobile devices that we already manage and Mac devices as well. One of the cool parts of this modern management approach that we're working very actively with the Windows team for the past 2 years is technology called Windows AutoPilot that allows you to basically deploy Windows 10 devices without having to do imaging. So it's a new technology that allows employees to bring their own devices, for example, their own Windows 10 devices, boot the device the first time, provide their company credentials, and then we do the magic in the back end to basically enroll the device into Intune, register the device with Azure AD, and provision all the necessary configurations, applications, and profiles to make the device work ready within a very short period of time for your end user. So in this case, you can basically replace your traditional imaging process for new Windows devices or for updates with this new technology called Windows AutoPilot that is closely integrated with Azure AD and Intune to enable this new modern deployment experience for you and for your employees. Let me quickly show you how this works from the end user perspective. So imagine an end user got a new Surface device that you sent to the person, or they just went to a store nearby and bought a Windows 10 device themselves. They boot the device the first time and go to the traditional out-of-the-box experience that many of us are used to at this point. They choose a few settings, and then they're asked to connect to Wi-Fi, again, because this technology requires internet connection to be able to get the device registered and enrolled with our services. If you have terms of use, you can enable that as part of your Wi-Fi enrollment or Wi-Fi page, but this is optional. Once the device gets connected to the internet, it basically knows through the AutoPilot service that this device belongs to Contos organization. So it knows that this device belongs to me, in this case, the user Brad. And all I'm asked to do is enter my credentials, which is the Azure AD or Office 365 credentials. And what happens next is that, as I mentioned before, is the device gets registered with Azure AD, automatically enrolled into Microsoft Intune, and then Intune deploys all the necessary configurations, security settings, and applications that IT needs before the device is ready to be used by the employee. And what we see when we talk to our customers is that this process significantly shortens the amount of time that IT spends on getting devices ready. So again, the imaging process is usually time-consuming and complex. In this case, it's much simpler with this approach. And also makes it easier for employees because they go through a normal out-of-the-box experience, but within minutes, they have access to work applications and work files on their Windows 10 devices. So this is pretty cool. A lot of our customers are really excited about this technology, and we are working very actively with the Windows team on enhancing these experiences with every release of Windows 10. So let me show you now all the different Windows controls that are available in Intune. So I will switch back to my Surface device here. And what you will see here is that I'll go back to the dashboard, my admin dashboard here. Go to the Intune blade. And then I'll go to the device enrollment section. And I will show you that Intune, in this case, already integrates with Windows AutoPilot. So again, we make this experience much more simplified for you as an IT professional and employees. And again, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of cool stuff coming in the next release of Windows 10, so around spring of 2018 as well as the fall 2018. So a lot of really cool stuff happening there, again, which you will see in a relatively short time. You can configure a few settings here with AutoPilot as of right now, but again, bit later this year in 2018, you'll be able to see even more controls from the AutoPilot integration perspective in Microsoft Intune. So that's AutoPilot integration. So the other thing is being able to configure Windows 10 devices from the cloud. And again, this is very important for many customers because they would like to be able to manage Windows 10 from the cloud, but they're usually asked, how many controls do I have, right? So let me show you all the stuff that we added to Microsoft Intune. So I will choose the platform, in this case, Windows 10. And as with iOS, Android, and Mac, you have different profile types available, from Wi-Fi, VPN configuration, to email, to Windows Defender ATP configuration, as well as the device restrictions, so like a lot of security controls. I'll show you some of them. The one thing you should notice is that take a look at how many categories we have of things you can configure. So we have probably more than 200 controls you can define here using Intune MDM policies. And as Windows adds more controls that can be configured to MDM, more of them will be enabled in Intune console as well, because again, we work very closely with the Windows team. So for example, I'll take a look at, for example here, Windows Defender antivirus management. So just one category, and I have 31 settings here that I can configure from using Intune that can be enforced on a Windows 10 device from the cloud. So again, instead of maintaining on-premises solution, very often a configuration manager, system center configuration manager, you can do the same thing now from the cloud. Another thing is being able to deploy applications. As I mentioned before, Intune can deploy applications from Windows Store for business. It can deploy your line of business applications, and it can also deploy, very cool, is the Office 365 ProPlus applications too. So now you can deploy those apps from the cloud. And again, as I mentioned earlier in this presentation, a lot of customers are very excited about this functionality. Another thing that's important to our customers is being able to manage updates. And you can also do it from the cloud now. Microsoft Intune integrates with the Windows Update for Business. So now you can actually manage Windows updates from the cloud, again, using Windows Update for Business and Intune services. So, which means that, again, you don't have to maintain your on-premises infrastructure here. You can just use cloud services to make sure that your devices are always up to date, because they will provide the best end-user experiences for your people, as well as the best security for your organization as well. While this is really awesome, again, we see many customers embracing this modern management approach. We also see many customers who have already done investments for your on-premises management, so your traditional management of Windows devices with solutions like System Center Configuration Manager, which basically almost nearly all customers use currently to manage Windows devices. And for them, it's a bit more challenging to move from this traditional Windows management world to this new cloud-based modern management world with Azure AD and Intune. And while many of them are looking for it, they're looking for moving to this new world. They're trying different methods to get there, right? So some organizations that start basically are brand new, they don't really have on-premises investments, they can just go and start with the cloud. So just basically start using Azure AD and Intune to deploy, manage, and secure Windows 10 devices. However, the majority of customers do have on-premises investments, and they have tried a few methods. So one of them that we often hear is what we call big switch transition, where they would just try to basically turn off your on-premises Active Directory and Configuration Manager and start managing everything from the cloud using Intune and Azure AD. Well, we haven't seen many successes yet with that because it requires a lot of planning, a lot of things to manage, a lot of risk. So we haven't seen that much of success, even though it's still a valid approach that some customers might take depending on the size of your environment and the complexity of your environment. Another often use case is the group transition, where our customers try to enable modern management approach for some users, for example, your salespeople or your consultants, which is great for those users, but it leaves the rest of your organization with this traditional management approach that might not provide the best end-user experiences for your employees. It might not provide the best security and not lower your total cost of ownership. So for that reason, we worked really hard for the past year or two on this new way of moving to the modern management world, what we call co-management. What co-management allows is basically it allows you to manage a Windows 10 device with a configuration manager and Intune at the same time, which was not possible in the past. What this allows you to do is, while you can manage the device with two solutions at the same time, then you can slowly move some workloads from Configuration Manager to Intune while maintaining Configuration Manager for other workloads. For example, you can move your device compliance check from Configuration Manager to Intune, Windows Update Management, for example, while maintaining Configuration Manager for other tasks like app deployment or really deep device configuration. So this gives you more flexibility to move to this new modern management approach in small steps with more control. So basically, you can take less risk and do it on your own terms. We released this in the fall of 2017. We see many customers already trying this in their environments, and we're really excited to see how this works out for many customers, because we see a lot of excitement in the space. Because what we hear from our customers is that co-management provides really ability for them to move to this new world without taking huge steps, which is very important for us, and it's very important for our customers as well. So let me show you how this works in a Configuration Manager console. So what you will see here in a second is that I will try to first connect Configuration Manager with Intune. So what this basically does is that it allows those two products to talk to each other. So that way they know what product is responsible for what part of the management. So that way Configuration Manager knows that it's responsible for example, for app deployment, and Intune is responsible for device compliance check. In that case, they don't have conflicts. So they basically avoid conflicts between each other. So they're smart enough to have the ability to talk with each other. Then I can decide, do I want to automatically enroll my configuration managed Windows 10 devices into Intune? So that way, basically I can say that all of my Windows 10 devices that are currently managed by Configuration Manager can be automatically enrolled for Intune to enable this co-management functionality that then I can use to slowly start moving some workloads to Intune. And in this screen, I can actually now start to say which workloads I would like to move from Configuration Manager to Intune. And again, it's a very easy process. You can just move the slider here for the workloads you would like to manage, and then we do the work in the backend to make that happen, again, between Configuration Manager and Intune. You can decide which device groups this policy applies to and which ones you would like to exclude, as you would expect to have these capabilities in Configuration Manager. And in the fall release of Configuration Manager, so fall 2017, it was version 17.10, we enabled 3 workloads that can be moved to Intune, and we'll be enabling more with every release of Configuration Manager that happens a few times a year traditionally. That was cool, co-management. The next topic to discuss is, which is again very important for our customers, is having the ability to access Intune programmatically. And what that means is that when we moved into, or we enabled Intune on Azure infrastructure, we also basically redesigned the product. So it was redesigned to run in Azure with microservices architecture. And we also enabled Intune in Microsoft Graph. What that means is that Intune APIs are now available to the Microsoft Graph. So you can programmatically access Intune's controls and data with your favorite tools like PowerShell, for example, or Python. The cool thing about this is that when we build Intune on Azure, we basically build the admin console on the top of the APIs. So Intune Admin Console in Azure Portal calls into the APIs of Intune in Microsoft Graph to do whatever you wanted to do in the Admin Console. What this basically means is that, in theory, any person can also build their own Admin Console for Intune if they don't like the one we have. So we wouldn't recommend that, but that's possible because, again, we build this solution with the mind of there's an underlying cloud service, there's an API layer, and there's also the admin console layer. So all these layers talk to each other to make this a really cool experience. What this also allows is that because the APIs are publicly available, then you can also use your favorite reporting or analytics tool to be able to access to Intune's data and control. So for example, you can use your Power BI or Tableau to access Intune data to create and generate custom reports or provide some custom analysis that you need in your organization. Another benefit that the APIs provide is the fact that now you can automate and integrate your workflows and solutions with Intune. Because the APIs are public, for example, you can create PowerShell scripts that automate some actions. Some of our partners, for example, around the world use this functionality to speed up the deployment of Intune for their own customers. So for example, instead of having to go to Intune Admin Console and add 20 applications one by one that customers need, you can create a PowerShell script that automatically basically gets the applications that you need from, let's say, Google Play Store and adds them into Intune within like 15 seconds versus you doing it manually for a few minutes in the admin console. So that really speeds up the whole process. Another benefit of that is the fact that you can now integrate your custom solutions or custom applications with Intune through the API. So again, a really cool way for you to really take Intune to the next level because you can interact with it with so many different ways now, not just through the admin console. You can now interact through your reporting tool, through PowerShell and other programming tools, as well as your own applications, your own workflows through integration with Intune through the Graph APIs. So let me show you that, how that works. It's on my Surface device here. So first, I will switch to my PowerShell here. And what I told you earlier is that I can now use PowerShell to access Intune controls and data through the Intune APIs in Microsoft Graph. So let me show you a simple script. So we have a few scripts available for our customers to start playing with this. So I'll switch to directory. I will show you one of the scripts here. To get the Manage Devices overview in my environment, I will first have to authenticate to my environment. So that way PowerShell has the basically rights to access my data. Need to provide the right credentials. contoso.build.com. Put my password. And what you will see in a second is that PowerShell will use the RESTful APIs to connect with Intune APIs and Microsoft Graph and get the information about my devices and make it presentable to me here in PowerShell. Another example, for example, I can do here is see all the applications that are installed on my devices in my environment. So again, I can automate this process, you can see here, using PowerShell. And it's not just about getting information, you can also add, remove, edit data in Intune using this PowerShell commands. So again, from automation integration perspective, this opens a lot of possibilities for our customers, developers, and partners. So we're really excited to see what our, again, partners and customers will do with all this power they now have in their in their hands. This is fully available, generally available to all the customers that use Intune service. And nearly everything that can be done from the Intune admin console can be done through the Intune APIs in Microsoft Graph. And the second benefit here, by having the APIs publicly available, is that I can now use my reporting tools, in this case Power BI, to access Intune data. So in this case, Intune has built-in reports, but if I'm looking for more custom reports or advanced analytics, I can use Power BI to get the additional information I need in my environment that I can then, again, analyze or pass to my data science person to do it for me. So we have a few templates available to you that you can access from the Intune admin console to get you started. But again, people who are really good with Power BI or other reporting tools, that can create their own tables, their own graphs to get the information they need in their environment. And we also have audit logs that you can use to see what changes have been made in your environment. We have Intune information stored for up to 90 days through Intune Data Warehouse, so that way you have historical data available to you as well, again, for custom reporting and analysis. So all this stuff is enabled through the Intune APIs in Microsoft Graph that we made generally available at the beginning of 2018. What I showed you so far were mostly use cases for our enterprise customers. But we also have Intune tailored for other use cases as well that are specific to different type of customers. For example, we have Intune available in first line, so in Microsoft 365 F1, where Intune functionality is available for use cases to manage your kiosks, digital signage, or shared device scenarios. Again, in those use cases, Intune can provide value as well. Another space is the small business customers, so basically through Microsoft 365 Business SKU. In this case, Intune controls are exposed through the Office 365 admin console. For some of our small and mid-sized customers, they can use the Office admin experience not only to enable productivity experiences for Exchange or SharePoint, but also get the management and data protection through Intune. So Intune controls are exposed to the Office 365 admin console as well. And we also enable Intune through for our education customers. So we have a specialized Intune for Education admin console that's tailored for the IT professionals in schools that provides a more simplified experience to get devices managed and enrolled through Intune. So it's also available through the Azure portal, but provides a more of a simplified admin experience that, again, is tailored specifically for schools. And we have many schools and universities using it now to manage the devices for their students, teachers, and professors, for example. So again, the idea here is that we not only provide Intune for our enterprise customers, but also for small businesses and schools as well. So again, and we listen to feedback to improve those experiences in these different categories. What I covered so far was mostly about Microsoft Intune, so that's about device management, but we are part of the larger product family in Microsoft Enterprise Mobility Plus Security, or shortly EMS, and we have multiple products that are enabled through EMS. So one of the ones that I also covered to some extent today was Azure Active Directory, that provides identity and access management from the cloud for your cloud applications, on-prem applications, users, groups, and so on. We also have a solution called Azure Information Protection that provides a ability for you to encrypt and protect files themselves. So even if the file is stolen or moved to a place that you don't have control, the file itself is encrypted. It knows who can access the file and who cannot, and also provides some additional functionality like tracking, classification, labeling, and so on. So very powerful tool for some of your most confidential information. Another service we have enabled in EMS called Cloud App Security that helps you to discover and monitor SaaS applications. So if you're looking to figure out what SaaS applications your employees are using, this is the tool to use, and also helps you to be compliant with the policies, because it helps you to protect company data within those SaaS applications as well. And last but not least, we also have a product called Advanced Threat Analytics, which is an on-premises product that connects to on-premises Active Directory and analyzes the behavior of users to see if the user accounts are compromised. And it's very important from security point of view, because the majority of breaches happen because the credentials are compromised. So with solutions like Advanced Threat Analytics and Azure AD Identity Protection, you can you can discover the attacks much faster against your user identities. So you can respond faster to those attacks and stop the breach before it happens. EMS is available in two SKUs. So one is E5 that provides a lot of Azure AD functionality. It includes Intune and Configuration Manager, includes a lot of Azure Information Protection functionality and advanced threat analytics. And we also have the E5 SKU that includes everything in E3, plus a lot of security-specific functionality across EMS products. So what you'll see here is a lot of our customers right now are getting into the E5 SKU because of the security concerns in their organizations that happen pretty often. What I mentioned earlier, and I would like to restate again, is that deployment assistance and support is included in the subscription, so you don't have to pay additional money for that. What this means is that we have a service called Fast Track that has Microsoft engineers that can help you get started with deploying our services, again, as part of the subscription without additional cost. And the support is also included, so if things don't work right, your support costs are also included in the subscription, so you can always get assistance to fix issues in your environment. One thing that I would like to cover is the fact that we saw and still see a tremendous growth in EMS from both sales, interest, and deployment perspective. We now increased our install base to over 60 million. We have more than 65,000 customers trusting EMS to manage their devices, identities, and provide user security. Intune has been growing at a tremendous rate, growing more than 100% year over year for the last 12 months. So we see a lot of customers actually deploying Intune in their environments, and we see that growth actually increasing over the next few years. Again, because of the fact that we moved Intune to Azure, we have lots of new functionality available, and the fact that a lot of customers now looked into a modern way to manage Windows 10 devices and Macs in their environment. From the configuration manager perspective, we also saw a lot of growth from the deployment perspective. We have more than, I believe, 60,000 customers now managing more than 100 million devices using Configuration Manager Current Branch. Again, it's a huge product with lots of organizations that trust Configuration Manager to manage their Windows devices. And we also see a growth in customers deploying Windows 10. Interesting statistic we have in Configuration Manager is that we see customers upgrade or deploy Windows 10 devices in less than a second. So basically every second we see a new Windows 10 device getting added into Configuration Manager for management. And we expect this to continue for the next 2 years because the upcoming end of support for Windows 7, that will be in 2020. So if you still have Windows 7 devices in your environment, I would highly encourage you to start upgrading to Windows 10 so you can take advantage of the new security and productivity features, as well as the management features and security features from Configuration Manager and Intune, again, which is very important in this world. On that, one last thing that I'd like to cover is the fact that Enterprise Mobility Plus Security is available as part of a larger product called Microsoft 365, which provides an intelligent modern workplace for your employees and also provides a modern management security solution for your IT professionals. Microsoft 365 includes Enterprise Mobility Plus Security, Windows 10, and Office 365, and all of our engineering teams are working close together on a daily basis to provide a modern experience, again, for your employees and your IT professionals. I would highly encourage you to visit our product website, microsoft.com/EMS, to learn more about our capabilities and also get a free trial. You get a free trial for 90 days. By filling out a simple online web form, and you can test it out, see how it works for your organization, so you can make a decision if this is something that you can use in your company to solve this mobility and security challenges in your organization. With that, I would like to thank you again for listening to this presentation. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any questions about this presentation, we have an amazing tech community that you can actually use to ask questions, get feedback, and provide help to other people. So I would highly encourage you to check it out. If you'd like to stay more up to date into what's happening around Intune, I would also encourage you to check the EMS blog. So if you just search online Microsoft EMS blog, we have blogs published on a daily basis, so you can stay up to date with all the new stuff that's coming up with our products. And we have a lot to come because of us being a cloud service. We have a lot of value coming up basically on a daily basis now. So thank you again for joining me, and I'll hope to see you again soon. Thank you.